You've spelunked into the Matt Cave. Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Matt Cave. Thank you all so much for spelunking on by. This week, it'll be talk about the Jazz, the Mammoth, just a little squeak about Real Salt Lake, and then some video game talk. It has been months since I've talked video games with you all, so I'll talk about a few and my views on how the community is reacting to Arc Raiders in specifics here. So that will be towards the end of the episode, but thank you all so much for being here. As always, like, comment, subscribe, wherever it is, however you listen, all those updates, it all matters. It really does. The algorithms are mysterious, so I need you now more than ever, and as we move forward here. But thank you all so much for being here. You all are MVPs to me, and let's get into things. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at the Mad Cave Podcast, and then you can find me on YouTube as well, the Mad Cave Podcast. That's pretty much it. That's where you can find me. So let's kick things off here with the Utah Jazz. As I am recording this late on a Saturday night, the Jazz are currently losing to the Phoenix Suns 112-93, so I think it's safe to say that the Jazz will fall here and fall to 21-54 on the season with 7 games remaining. So that doesn't really matter. The game against the Suns doesn't really matter. What matters is the standings. And as we look at the standings here, the Jazz currently, where they sit at 21-54, 21-53 currently, if you want me to be exact, but after this game, they have the 5th worst record in the league, and they're pretty comfortable in that position. They have a 3-game cushion between themselves and the next closest team, the Dallas Mavericks. So what does that mean? Well, we all know that means that the Jazz have a good chance at keeping their pick if it was an even playing field. But we all know it's not. We all are very well aware that Utah is the scapegoat for a problem that's been going on for decades. Since LeBron James, really. There was a tank off for him, and that's really when tanking became a problem 20-some-odd years ago. And it's just gone on ever since. But all of a sudden, because the Jazz front office and coaching staff are smart, and they do it all within the rules, it's all within the rules. But they do it so well within the rules, they are now the scapegoats. And so what's going to happen is the NBA is going to do everything in their power to make sure the Jazz do not get a draft pick worth anything at all. I firmly believe that. And when that happens, and it is a when, it's not an if, you can come back to these shows that I've been doing, and you can say, Matt told you so. To everybody that thought that the NBA would do the right thing, make things all even for everyone. You can say to your friends and family and everything, you can say, Matt had it right the whole time. So I'm going to be preparing you all for what's going to happen here come May, just so we're all aware before June's draft. So just, you got your warning flares here. But as it stands, the Sacramento Kings currently are 2 games either ahead or behind, depending on your glass half full, half empty view of the world. And it's very realistic that the Kings could pass up the Jazz for having not the worst record in the Western Conference, which would be hilarious because the Kings have been just terrible all season. And they haven't even really tried to be, in all honesty. Like, they tried to build a roster that would compete, and it just kind of, the floor gave out on them, and they have, all these different pieces that just don't match, and this is what it looks like. So the Kings aren't tanking. They're just that bad. Same thing with the Pacers. The Pacers aren't tanking. They're just that bad. The Jazz are tanking. They're not that bad. especially when you listen to some pundits and you read some articles about looking forward to next year already because, clickbait and all that. I hate that stuff. I really hate that stuff. You guys know I do. Before the draft has happened, before free agency, before trades in the offseason, before retirement announcements, people are already writing articles and stuff about next season. Oh boy, if it wasn't my job to read these things, I wouldn't read them. And I'm saving you from having to read them. So there you go. I guess I'm doing you a service? I don't know. But the roster the Jazz could potentially have next year, if Walker Kessler decides to re-sign with the franchise instead of accepting an offer sheet as a restricted free agent, it's an impressive roster compared to what the Jazz have had the past few years. Is it, challenge for the top 4 seeds in the Western Conference good? Absolutely not. I wouldn't put a fully healthy Jazz roster above the Thunder, Spurs, Lakers, Nuggets, or Timberwolves. I'd put them up against the Rockets, the Suns, the Clippers, Blazers, and Warriors for sure. And who knows what Draymond Green and Steph Curry are going to do after the season ends? Who knows what Steve Kerr's going to do as the season ends in Golden State? So that's something to watch out for as well. I would put Utah's roster next season fully healthy. Everybody's re-signed, whatever draft pick they get. If they do get into the top 3 picks, which they won't, but if they do, I would put them as the 5th best team in the Western Conference. I would put them up there with the Rockets. But we know that pick's not going to happen, so I'd put them in the play-in. Comfortably in the play-in. By the way, comfortably there. And that's far and away better than what we've seen the past few years. And that roster would be Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ace Bailey, Keontae George, Isaiah Collier, Kyle Filipowski. So there are some guys there that when everyone's healthy, everyone's playing to win. Bryce Sensabaugh even coming off the bench as a younger Jordan Clarkson. I mean, there's something there. There really is. But it's not enough to get them into the upper echelon, which is what this whole tanking business has been about. It's about getting Utah into that spot. Is to get that player, Cooper Flagg, Victor Wembanyama, to put them in the top echelon. They're not going to get that guy. They're not going to get Cam Boozer. They're not going to get AJ DeBonsa. They're not going to get Darren Peterson. So, at the end of it, with all the new tanking rules, which the ones that they are considering are surprisingly anti-punitive, they're not going to be punishing teams outright. Now, the one that's probably going to go through is the one that's similar to what baseball and hockey are doing to counteract tanking, which is you cannot get a top, I think it's 5 pick in consecutive seasons. And so, like the Rockies, for example, they won't be picking top 10 because they've been bad for so many years. So they fall out and other teams come in. Same thing with the White Sox. They'll fall out and other teams move up while they drop to the bottom of whatever, the lottery, if you want to call it that. So it's something similar to that, where if you are consecutively bad, you will get punished to an extent. I think for the NBA, it will be your pick won't be better than 5th, but it won't be worse than 10th, I think is what they're saying. So that's encouraging instead of just outright saying, all right, Washington, Utah, Charlotte, all of these other teams, although Charlotte's in a playoff or play-in spot. In fact, the East is wrapped up. So Charlotte is in the play-in. So, I mean, there is that for Charlotte, I guess. But the NBA can't or won't look at these franchises and go, all right, because of, past seasons, you're going to get punished moving forward. It seems like it's going to be a clean slate from this next season moving on. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know what the overlords of the NBA, DraftKings, MGM Bet, all these other ones, you know how they feel about it. But that's where a lot of the pressure has been coming from on Adam Silver and the NBA offices, is from their sponsors, which the biggest money sponsors they have right now are gambling companies. ESPN Bet, all of them. the ones you see the commercials for endlessly. Even if you're not watching a sports channel, you're seeing a sports gambling ad. So you know the ones I'm talking about. They're the ones putting the most pressure on the league offices to do something. Obviously, there's the whining and complaining of Sam Presti of the Oklahoma City Thunder front office. He's the general manager. I've talked about him a lot. He's been whining a lot to the front offices of the NBA. And then, obviously, you have the jokers on ESPN. I'm not even going to name them. They don't deserve to be named. That network doesn't really need to be named anymore. It's garbage programming. It is truly brain rot, is what it is. Even Pardon the Interruption, which used to be my favorite show on TV, is just two old guys yelling at each other now. So it's brain rot. Everyone calls TikTok brain rot or YouTube Shorts, whatever. It's ESPN, and they are leading the charge. Anyway, that was a tangent. So another thing I want to bring up with the Jazz is Ace Bailey coming into form, or Cody Williams coming into form. No, not on Cody Williams. Absolutely not. Ace Bailey is looking like he can be the real deal. He still needs a lot of development. He really does. But against Toronto, he was outstanding. 37 points. I mean, against Philadelphia, he led the team in scoring with 25. Against the Suns, he's had a rougher night, 5 of 15 from the field. That's not his final stat line. They still have about 7 minutes left in the game, but not his best game of the season. Better than Cody Williams, though, who is scoreless. Yeah. So Cody Williams is still a bust. It's just the Jazz have nobody else to play. They don't. Everybody's hurt or being rested or is not playing per coach's decision. And when you have guys like Bez and Bang and Oscar Chiebwe playing major minutes for you now, yeah, it's because there's nobody else. There's Ace Bailey. That's it. So that's all, the only person in front of Cody Williams in the rotation when it comes to scoring points. And I'm sorry, Cody Williams is a bust. He just is. Ace Bailey, though, he's looking the part. He's getting better, and he's only getting better as the season goes along. He's not pouting. He's not acting like a child, even though he is a child. Just age-wise. I'm not saying that like personality or anything like that. Just age-wise. He is a kid. He's doing well. He is. And he's improving. He's not sulking. And he's getting rewarded by the coaching staff by being the number one option. So, and then the Jazz, I mean, when they are going for it, when the rotation is tight, everybody's playing double-digit minutes, they took the Denver Nuggets late into the fourth quarter. It took a couple of threes from Cam Johnson and Jamal Murray to put the game away. The Jazz were hanging around. In fact, they were only down by 1 at the half, and they were leading after 3 against the Nuggets. So there's stuff there for the Jazz. It's just everybody needs to be healthy, and they all need to be going for it. And I'm telling you, the best they can do is 4th or 5th. But again, that's depending on free agency, the draft, retirements, all of that, trade requests. There's still a whole offseason in between now and the tip of next season. So take everything I'm saying here with a boulder of salt. All right, so that's that for the Jazz. Let's talk about Real Salt Lake a little bit here. They are in the top 10 of the power rankings for MLS. They are currently 8th. I know. I had to give you a second to recover from the shock. They have 1 loss on the season, 1 draw, and 3 wins. That equals 10 points for those of you that are better at math than me. I had to look on a screen for that. They only have a +2 goal differential, which is not stellar, but it doesn't matter when you're winning. Real Salt Lake's next game is going to be against Sporting Kansas City, one of the most random rivalries you'll ever see in sport. And that'll be an interesting gauge of where they're at. Because right now, Sporting Kansas City is at the very bottom of the Western Conference with just 1 win and 1 draw and a -6 goal differential. So if Real Salt Lake can go in there and get a win on the road against one of their biggest rivals, That'll tell me a lot about this young team. Diego Luna is looking like he's getting more and more match fit. Wouldn't surprise me to see him starting this game because they've had an entire week off because of the international break. So Real Salt Lake, I mean, if they win this game against Sporting Kansas City, maybe there's something there to root for. Like I've said a lot, these guys are young, and so they don't really know failure, and they don't know what it means that they are supposed to lose. And they play an exciting brand of soccer or football. So watch this team if you can. Try to get to Rio Tinto. I'm never going to call it what it's called now, just so everybody is aware. Get down to the Riot and have some fun before the Miller family raises the prices to where you can't go see the game. They're still pretty reasonable right now, but they're going to go up, especially if the team starts winning more and more. Mark my words. Diego Luna should be back soon to full go, and the team will only be more exciting. My hope and my worry is that when Diego Luna comes back, the rest of the team doesn't just turn into what they were last year, and that was just, okay, Diego, go do something. Because that's what it was last year. It was waiting for Diego Luna to spark some magic. Hopefully that's not the case this time, and everybody keeps playing like they have been. Maybe the defense gets a little bit better, more shored up, especially the center backs, and then set-piece defense as well really needs to improve. Other than that, though, this is a pretty fun team. So maybe subscribe to Apple TV, which is where MLS is. That's the dumbest partnership I think I've ever seen in my life. Even more dumb than the NHL. And do you guys remember the Versus network in the early 2000s? Yeah, that's where the NHL was playing games. That's when the NHL was like dying. So there is that too. That was a pretty dumb partnership, but I think that was because the NHL was asking for too much money from the giants of the broadcasting world, and so they just had to kind of go to whoever will take them for those few seasons. They learned their lesson. But MLS on Apple TV is killing the MLS. I hate Dan Garber for doing that. Don. I don't know why I call him Don. But in case you don't know, he's the commissioner of MLS and not the brightest bulb in the bulb box. So that's a quote from Frasier. Just so everyone's aware. I know that's not the saying. It's a quote from Frasier. Okay. So let's move this on to the Utah Mammoth, who are confounding. They are confounding. Maybe they should play the Kings every game. You know? Because two of the last 4 have been against the Kings. And in those 4 games, the only games they've won is against the Kings. By a combined tally of 10-5. They lost to the Capitals in a game they should not have lost. They got sucked into the Tom Wilson tornado. That guy just needs to get kicked out of hockey. I can't remember if it was on this program or if it was on the other one that I do, but there's 2 players in hockey that I just do not want to see play anymore. And I don't want them to have like some sort of gross injury or anything. I just want them banned. That's Tom Wilson and it's Evander Kane. Those are the 2 guys. Everyone else actually has some modicum of skill involved to their game instead of just being a goon. Those 2 guys, just get them out. Get them out. But they got sucked into the Tom Wilson tornado. Way too many penalties. I think there was like almost 100 minutes worth of penalties against the Capitals. They cannot allow themselves to do that. And against the Kings, the very next game, the Kings tried it. They tried to get physical. They tried to get chippy after the whistle. You know, a couple of jabs, a couple of cross checks. And I was proud of the Mammoth. They didn't get sucked into it. They just went, dude, scoreboard. That's basically what it was. It was, come on, man, look at the scoreboard. Really, you're going to try this on me? That's what it needs to be. That's what it should have been against the Capitals. Tom Wilson's going to be Tom Wilson. You know what he's going to do. And you just look back at him and you go, scoreboard. That'll make him more angry, and he'll probably get a game misconduct and thrown out of the game for doing something stupid. You know, so I guess it was a learning moment for them. Against the Oilers and Connor McDavid, there were a lot of calls that went against Utah, but that's what is always going to happen, no matter the sport, okay? No matter the sport. If there is a superstar on the opposing team, that team is going to get the benefit of the doubt more than you. That's just the nature of sport. It's always happened, and it will always happen. So you have to expect that if you're the Mammoth, and you cannot get sucked in to complaining to the referees every whistle. Because that does another thing. It makes the referees want to call more penalties against you because you're so annoying. Just look at Luka Doncic. He just got suspended because all he does is whine about fouls called against him. So those two games were endlessly frustrating. So was the game against the Ducks. And at home, Utah has been terrible recently. Absolutely awful. In the month of March, they're one of the best road teams in the NHL, which, if you've been watching this team all season like I have, you thought you would never say that sentence. This team is 7-1-1 on the road in the month of March. At home, where, guess what? That's where the majority of their games are going to be played for the rest of the regular season. They're terrible. So they need to figure it out. Hopefully they did against the Kings. They have a long break here until Thursday where they go up to Seattle to face off against the Kraken in a humongous game in the standings. Because if we look at the standings, the Utah Mammoth have 82 points. They are on pace to beat the franchise record, air quotes, of points in a season of 90. But they're 5 points up on Nashville, 6 points up on the Kings, and 7 points up on the Kraken. And don't look now, but the Jets are 3 points out of a playoff spot, and the Blues, who everybody thought was just going to tear it down to the nubs at the trade deadline, yours truly included, they're 4 points out. That's 2 wins of a playoff spot. What? So it is so tight in the NHL period, but more so in the Western Conference, which is the worstern conference this year, that a team can go on a tear. They can win their last 5 games of the season and find themselves in the playoffs. And if a team like the Mammoth or the Predators win 1 of 4, they'll find themselves dropping out. So every single game matters. Every period, every check, every goal, every penalty, it matters. And Utah needs to step it up at home. They really do. Now, one thing I want to mention is a lot of season ticket holders for the Mammoth are selling their tickets to visiting fans. If you're not going to make it to the game, sell it to a Mammoth fan. I don't care if you take a loss on it. Are you a fan of the team or are you just there to make money? Because if you're just there to make money, your season ticket should be taken away from you. Because there are true fans out there that will pony up and pay for season tickets, and they'll make it to every game or darn near close to every game. There's a few that listen to this program that do. So those particular people really bug the ever-living you-know-what out of me. And I mean this because against the Capitals, there was Let's Go Caps chants that I was hearing before the game got out of hand. Against the Kings, there was Let's Go Kings chants that you can audibly hear on the TV camera. That's not okay. So, but I do also want to point out, against the Kings, before the game got out of hand for the Mammoth, I could hear Let's Go Utah chants to the point where the Kings fans started booing the chant. So that was pretty cool. I do love to hear that. So maybe we can get that going up in Seattle too, but I doubt it. So these games over the next 2 to 3 weeks are crucial. Utah does not have anything locked up, and that's what it felt like they were playing like against the Capitals and the Oilers, is like they have something locked up. They're just kind of coasting to get to the playoffs. They can't afford to do that. And in this most recent game against the Kings, it looked like they turned that on its head. And it's better. So I just hope they continue playing like that. And the goalkeeping kind of collapsed a little bit there. Vejmelka played a very much better game, but so did the defense around him. There were no breakaways against him. So, well, hopefully this is a turning moment for the team. If you listen to me on Utah Mammoth Daily, I said they're going to go 9-1 to close out the season. It's still possible, but they have to win the last 8 of their games here in a row. Still possible, but I don't know. I hope they do. That was me manifesting it into the universe that the Mammoth were going to go 9-1 to close out the season. Please let it be so. Okay, that's it for the sports talk this week, everybody. If you're not a video game person, totally get it. But here we go. We're transitioning into video games. So there's 2 games out right now that are very similar to each other, and they are in the extraction shooter genre. And I'm lucky enough that I was gifted both games. One by my brother for Arc Raiders, and then one by, you probably know him from Radio Ronin, Chandler. Chandler gifted me Marathon out of the kindness of his heart. I was not expecting it. I even almost broke down and cried because of it. But I've been playing both games. And it's not necessarily a matter of which one's better, because they both serve different purposes. So Arc Raiders is an extraction shooter built around player versus environment, PvE, against the Ark. So you have different tiers of Ark opponents, starting at the very bottom with the little spider crawly things that jump on you that are really annoying, all the way up to the matriarch, which is the big bad. She summons a whole bunch of different Ark that support her while you're fighting her. It's a big mess, super hectic, and a ton of fun. Marathon is an extraction shooter based around PvP that has PV, which is player versus player, that has player versus environment elements thrown in. So you have to be in the right mindset when you jump into these games. So with Marathon, your goal is to run into other players and take them out, and then do whatever mission you have selected for whenever you jump in. Arc is almost the opposite, where now I've only been playing solos. I want that to be clear as well. I've only been going in solo on both. Arc has something called aggression-based matchmaking, where they gauge your gameplay and they do their best to put you in lobbies that matches you with people that play like you. Now, the system's not perfect, but I'm a pretty passive guy when it comes to PvP. I'm too old for that stuff. I'm not a 13-year-old on Adderall here. I'm not trying to go pro, or as back in my day, try to go MLG. You know, I'm not trying to be a major league gamer here. I'm just playing games to have fun and relax a little bit because the world sucks. So that's how I play Arc Raiders, right? I want to take out the Arc. I want to gather what I need to gather to improve my workbenches so I can make better weapons and better shields and better equipment to take out Arc. Marathon, you have to be sweaty. You do. You have to be hyper aware of your surroundings. There are different shells that you can take in on Marathon where they do different things. There's assassins that have cloaking. There's something called the Rook, which is like the free loadout there's free loadouts in Marathon, but it's like the free shell loadout where you go in and you just do gobs of damage. There's other ones as well. There's the Defender that has like a shield that's kind of like Reinhardt from Overwatch or Doctor Strange from Marvel Rivals, and you can tank some damage for your team while they flank around. But it's a lot. There's a higher, I guess, barrier to entry for Marathon than there is Arc. So both games are fun. If you prefer first-person shooter, you want player versus player, and then there's an environment for you to explore while fighting off players, get Marathon. It's fun. The gunplay is great because it's Bungie. Bungie's gunplay has never been the problem. It's how they treated Destiny is the problem. And then for Arc Raiders, third person, have some fun, kill some robots, meet some nice people when you go out solo. But I will warn you, if you go into duos or trios, it turns more into Marathon, where it is player versus player, and then there's Arc around you. So you have been warned. But both games are super fun. It's just whatever your flavor is. So there you go. On the Matt rating scale, it is buy it for both. That's it for the show this week, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you next week when we spelunk back into the Matt Cave.